Hey there, guys. This is Ed, and I'm coming back to you with another episode of Beers and Bots. And as you can see, we still got the Chiefs logo up and running. So they won last week. They demolished out Big Ben. Hopefully, I guess maybe put up his retirement party. Of course, we got a big challenge ahead this week with the Buffalo Bills. We'll see. I don't know. Josh Allen and company. A little worried about my boys and if they're going to hold off and, they get a slow start like they did last week. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'll hold faith and we'll see what happens for that. But this week, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue featuring out beers that we're going to be drinking out for this week's gaming sessions. And this week, we are going to Czechoslovakia, or the Czech Republic, I should say, is actually probably better with that. And we're going to do not just one, but we are going to do two different types of beers for tasting for tonight. And with that, we're going to go, I thought about, the one beer that I had, it is Czech style. But with everything that I kind of did research on and kind of looked at it, I could not go ahead and not do another beer because pretty much everything I talk about is going to be about the other style of beer. So doing the tasting on that, I've tried it. It's been a while since I've had it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to showcase two beers tonight. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how they mix, and we'll see what goes on with the two of them. But for that, so what we are going to do, I think I already kind of said it. We are going to go into the Czech style of beer, and we're going to get probably the most classic example of Czech style beer, which is Pilsner Urquell, and we're also going to do a dark style of Czech beer, which is not very popular. And we're going to go to Deciduous Brewing out in Newmarket, New Hampshire. It's called Trodden. It's a 5% Czech style dark lager. For the brewery itself, I couldn't find much about them, but it does appear that they do seem to be kind of a prolific brewery. Looking through the website that they got out there, they usually have about a dozen beers that are available for curbside pickup. And looking through Untapped, they got about 300 different beers profiles that are showing up on there. So definitely it's not a small no-name brewery that's out there. It's just one, they're new to me as I've never heard of them. It is, but, it's new to me for that. I've never heard of it, never heard of this beer. But again, it's not going to be too far and outrageous because the beer itself was not introduced until March of 2021. And we'll kind of, fire up, as we have here. We got our Pilsner Urquell, and we've got the Trodden. The one cool thing here, you can kind of maybe see a little bit, that is not just kind of, wrinkled type label that's on there. That is actually a vintage map of the White Mountains of New Hampshire that they put on there. And what we have, and this is kind of where I've kind of ventured into, is the Czech style dark lager, or Czech Dark Lager. It is one of the subcategories of Czech lager style family that's designed or outlined by the Beer Judge Certification Program, or the BJCP. And according to them, it's divided. It's divided into color and also the alcohol strength. And it's going to give us four categories that are going to come out of there. There's going to be a pale, there's going to be an amber, there's dark, which we're going to try tonight, and there is the premium pale, which is represented out most famously by Pilsner Urquell. Pardon me. And with that, Pilsner Urquell, while Pilsner is utilized for many types of beers around the world, in the Czech Republic, there is only one when you talk of Pilsner, and it is this. It is Pilsner Urquell. Now we'll get into the more section of the program. And, this was the first pale lager that was brewed back in 1842. It came about basically after a bunch of disgruntled tavern owners in the Bohemian city of Pilsen, which is now obviously part of the Czech Republic. They poured the rumor is about 36 barrels of local beer down a drain at that time, many of the brews were made by a method of warm fermentation, and the rumor is that the discarded beer was rumored to be sour and basically undrinkable. So they basically revolted and said, "We've had enough of this. We want something better." So with that, the businessmen and tavern owners of Pilsen raised funds, and they built a burger in non-German terms, Citizens Brewery, and they sought the beer brew the beer that was coming of popularity in Munich. It was made with the aid of ice making machines, and in 4 short years later, after 1938, the first batch was introduced at a local fair, the Martimas Fair, and it was the first truly pale beer that was ever seen in Central Europe. Prior to that, most of the beers that were brewed in Bavaria, that area of Germany, that area of Central Europe, they were deep brown in color. And they're going to be based upon the barley malts that were roasted over the wood fires that were there. Suffice to say, the style of the Pilsner Urquell, it spread like wildfire through, shipments spreading all throughout the parts of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which the Czech lands at that time were part of. It was so popular that there was a quote-unquote Pilsner beer train that left every day for Vienna, and it became the cult drink of Berlin and Paris. Fast forward a little bit, we get up to 1874, and Pilsner finally arrived into the Americas. And with the second wave of the immigrants from Central Europe, lager brewing, this cold style of lager brewing, had finally begun to challenge the dominance of what had been the English style ales that had been the dominance with the first wave of colonists that had came in. I guess a fun fact for you is Pilsner itself means from Pilsen, but the fame of the beer spreading with the brewers in other countries and producing quote-unquote Pilsner style beer. The Burger Brewery, the Citizens Brewery of Pilsen, in right about, I want to say, if I recall correctly, it was 1878. They slapped the term Urquell, so it was Pilsner Urquell, which translates into the Urquell part of everything, actually translates into the original source of Pilsner. So that is what Pilsner Urquell means original source of Pilsner. And I guess to me, it's kind of like champagne. We could call a lot of stuff champagne, but really the only stuff that comes from the Champagne region of France is truly champagne. So the Pilsen company basically kind of took this to heart, and right before World War One, they ended up suing German breweries that were using the name Pilsner in their brew. They didn't get an outright victory of saying you can't use the word Pilsner, blah, blah, blah. The German breweries at that time basically agreed they would shorten the name off from Pilsner to Pils, or they would attach the name of the town or region that was brewing it and put that in front of the Pilsner. So you would get Danish Pilsner or Bavarian Pilsner or Munich Pilsner or wherever it was coming from. And they still follow that practice today. So it's, just kind of, I guess, a gentleman's agreement that they won't use it. So with that, Pilsner Urquell basically kind of represents, or I should say, while Pilsner Urquell represents one of the, most widely styled known of Czech Lager, the Dark Lager that we're also going to try tonight, this is a small percentage. It makes up about 5%, last estimate, of the Czech beer exports. And as far as the Pilsner and the Dark Lager are concerned, they are made with identical yeast, and they're made in the same technique. But the only real difference is that there is going to be a segment of caramel or dark malt and there's far less presence of hops inside of the dark lager, whatever. But the dark lager. God, I can't stop saying lager. But so as such, with that, what we're going to get is we should see a like dark amber or almost like a black color. The expectation is we'll get like a tan or sandy type head to the beer, and also with that, we should definitely get a sweeter taste. In connection to that, what we will also see is, because this beer is inspired by German Schwarzbier and Dunkels, or I should say, while it is, we are going to get different overtones of cola and coffee and ginger and chocolate. We're going to get a more roasted maltiness with the dark lagers. Would be less bitter taste than many of the gold lagers, and it's going to have a more full body. Definitely will be a lower carbonation, and that should give us a more kind of moderate to creamy mouthfeel full with that. So we're going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and crack these guys open. So let's see what we get. Nice, Pilsner Urquell. We're going to crack that guy open, and we'll go ahead and give him a go pour. That's told. Block out. Of course, my fat hand is in the way, so we'll get the pour as best as I can. So you can kind of see. I know I'm using Stella Artois glass, but I'm going to give it a nice clear pour. As you kind of see, that is a nice, crisp, clear, golden lager that comes in. Basically like any of the Pilsners that we see with, American style and other ones that have copied many of these. It's very clear, crisp, nice, clean, distinct white head that comes off of that. So we'll go ahead, give it a taste, and it's got that standard kind of Pilsner smell to it. Very crisp, refreshing. And like I said, it's been a while since I've had Pilsner Urquell. We do get the kind of the hoppiness that comes off of the beer. They make for good drinking. Not bad. Low carbonation from what we can kind of see for everything out of that. It's kind of cleared up very nice. Get that out of the way so you can kind of see. Slide that in, and you kind of see we got no bubbles in that little bit that we have there. Our head's dissipated, but it's a clean, refreshing, pretty kind of smooth drinking beer. There's a little bit of I wouldn't say tang to it, but the hoppiness that comes off of the backside, not so much on the front side, but more on the backside, that kind of comes out off of the beer. So it's got a little bit of, bitterness that I would say that comes in off of that. But overall, it's a good, easy kind of drinking beer that we would get for there. No qualms about, with that. It's in that family of Budweiser, Miller Lite, all the other, that comes in play. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to crack out our dark lager. Let's go ahead and we'll see how that sets up. Again, I'm going to try not to block. Of course, if I just pour it in, there we go. We'll see it in a moment. Pour it out a little bit. I don't know, my fat hand gets in the way. So there we go. We'll pour a little bit of that. As you're going to see in comparison between the two, whereas the Pilsner, obviously a much clearer, clean, crisp color. Our dark lager is exactly that, almost to the point where I would kind of look at it. And if I wasn't, knowledgeable of anything, I would first take a look at that and just kind of look at it and say, that, almost is a stout. That's a good, the head is just kind of sticking there and it's holding on for, for dear life almost. Let's see if we can get a little bit more in there. Slide it up. That's definitely a good set. That's a good set of foam that's sitting on there. So we'll go ahead, give ourselves a trial of the Trodden. Definitely night and day between the two of them. With this, with the Trodden, there is definitely a good set of coffee overtones that I get right off of the bat. You know, definitely a hoppiness to the Pilsner Urquell that we get. I'm messing up my beer can. You can't see everything. Let's see. We'll kind of go there. Boom, boom. There we go. Slide the cans back. You know, but off of the Dark Lager, definitely more of a coffee taste that comes in off of that. To me, almost, you know, kind of looking at it almost of a stout type of mouthfeel to it. You know, coffee porter, you know, something of that flavor. But again, that fits into the categorizations of these Czech style dark lagers that they're going to, again, as we said, they're going to have the cola, the coffee, the caramel. You know, they're going to have that richer feel. Definitely this one doesn't have a ginger as they're characterized by, but, you know, there is that roasted, you know, profile to this beer. You know, I guess comparing the two, you know, they're both very drinkable, but they are two different. We'll try out both. Yeah, you know, they both work. You know, they're both very easy beers to drink. You know, if I can find, you know, more samples of the dark style lager, you know, it definitely is something I would try. I know last week we kind of had our chili hazelnut. Didn't like that. Say wouldn't order, but, you know, obviously both of these, you know, especially the dark lager, would go ahead and order that when out. You know, the Pilsner, more crisp and refreshing, you know, a little lighter and stuff. You know, it's going to be a little bit better in connection with kind of, you know, as we drink for the weekend. But the dark style stuff works out just as well for everything with that. So, you know, so definitely two contrasting styles. You know, they work on both sides of the thing, you know, for whatever you're looking at. You know, so we'll go ahead and we'll give a little bit more. And even still, after everything's kind of dissipated, you know, we still get that coffee taste that comes in on the beer. You know, still permeates through. We'll go ahead and give it a second. And we'll try out back on the Pilsner. Probably should reverse it around after I did it last time the other way, the same way. And taking that on the second side, you know, a little crisp, refreshing. So, you know, if you're the Czech style, definitely has inspired beers around the world. You know, the dark lager is an up and coming style of Czech beer. You know, I'm sure we'll see more as time goes on. You know, the Pilsner style has been copied many times over. You know, many times over across the world. You know, I think we're all familiar with that style. But, you know, the Pilsner Urquell, that is the original. That is the granddaddy of all the Pilsners that have come before everything. So, you know, both good styles, both good beers. You know, they're different in the approach for what you want out of that. You know, the Pilsner, obviously, kind of more everyday, just drinkable. That would be there. The dark lager, probably not as much drinking. So, I guess we'll see for this weekend for gaming, which one's going to win out. But I guess, if we're going to drink more, we'll probably go with the Pilsner because it's going to be a lot easier to, drink a little bit more of that than the Dark Lager. So, but again, I thank you guys for tuning in and checking everything out. Hopefully you enjoyed, got a little knowledge that came out of this. Hopefully it intrigues you. You might go find out a Dark Lager that's out there. Everybody's tried Pilsners in one shape or form, pretty popular format. So, as we've kind of said for everything, as we said time again, that as we game this weekend, if we're going to get, here's to poning, but if we're going to get pwned, at least we got a beer in our hand. So, thanks guys, and we'll catch you next week.